Good morning. So, today I'm going to talk to you about a comment that I heard the other day regarding the authenticity of having ADHD or ADHD as an adult. And I wanted to share with you that before you cut yourself off and say, I don't think I have it, which could be the case, I really want to explain to you the processes behind diagnosis and also signs and symptoms that may not be in the data beforehand, but now it is in the data when it comes to diagnosing. Because there's so many people out there who have been flying under the radar. And what that means is going to your doctor, seeing a therapist, working with a school psychologist, being placed in special education courses for a different disorder as a child, like some sort of like learning disability. And so often do people fly under the radar and their signs and symptoms of ADHD are not detectable, or they're not detected at all. They're being covered up with different skill sets such as coping to help manage those symptoms. And it might be hard to detect, and there's stigma on top of that where doctors, therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists do not want to diagnose ADHD due to the storyline that's been going on for a long time, saying that ADHD is something that you don't have and it's being overdiagnosed. And before you say, I don't have ADHD, don't count yourself out, because there could be a chance that you might fall in alignment with the signs and symptoms of ADHD. Consider waking up in the morning and you feel dazed and confused. It's hard for you to adjust to the morning routine because you are having trouble with your immediate memory. You have fogginess in your thinking, where it's difficult to actually locate items that you may have placed in a specific place before, where you find yourself immediately frustrated because your emotions feel extensively intolerable at the time. These are just the many things that you might experience in a normal morning, and I want you to consider that those could be signs and symptoms of ADHD. If you find that these particular symptom experiences are impacting and stopping you from engaging in the following areas, then it really could be the case that you have ADHD. The first is what we call living independently. And that comes with paying your bills on time, actually knowing what bills to pay, spending your money wisely, following through with your errands, such as going grocery shopping or going to the doctor, seeing your doctor. Actually going and seeing your doctor is a really, really decent thing. And a lot of people that struggle with ADHD have difficulty not only with time management, but also attention management, where they find it difficult to go to their doctors, whether it's on time or going to the doctors at all, or going in with a clear mind exactly why they're going in. They may even forget on the way. Also with independent living is taking your medication. Many people struggle with taking their medication, such as knowing what to take at what time, if today was the right day to even take it, because you have different signs and symptoms that impact you from doing so. So that's independent living. Next is your friendships, your social ability components, family. If you notice that your signs and symptoms are stopping you from connecting with people, are stopping you to even connect with people you've connected with before, such as your best friend or maybe even a close family member. If you find that you're struggling with regulating your emotions, such as trying to manage them and balance them in a way where you can still have some healthy expression, however, it's not dysregulated enough where it's stopping you from actually wanting to communicate with people. Another one is engaging in purpose in your life, having some sort of meaning, going to school, getting in a career, working a job, actually having employment. As many psychologists that have taught me before and have learned from their predecessors, life is full of living, and what that living comes from is to love, to work, and to engage into something purposeful. So ADHD could be impacting that area too, even like going to church or volunteering, doing something in your community that you find is helpful and good. Another thing that ADHD could be impacting under the radar, managing your health is such a tough thing when you experience ADHD. And if it impacts your physical health, then you're stuck. You might even think, well, what if I don't notice symptoms of it? What if I think it's just anxiety? What if I think it's something that I've gone through that was traumatic, that's stopping me from wanting to leave my house? So what if it's depression, or to the point where I'm so pressed down I don't want to move forward? Yeah, those are some other things to consider too. And a lot of the data shows that if you do have ADHD, there is a high percentage that you also struggle with substance use or anxiety or depression. And when you have comorbidity, which is working with different signs, with different symptoms of different disorders, and it's difficult to manage them, and you find yourself stuck and not even wanting to move forward, life is just abruptly halted, there's all these obstacles in your way, and you're suffering. That's when you can really tap into these aspects of curiosity and really trying to understand and maneuver through the stigma or the automatic assumptions that who are you to be the one that can actually find out if you have ADHD. Maybe you've even been turned down before. And I always tell my colleagues and my clients, it's always worth addressing something if you feel it is the thing that you need to unravel to go deeper in order for you to make change and manage the impact of what it's doing to your life. Because I've worked with too many people who say, I wish I had looked into this earlier. I wish I was actually considered diagnosable. And you can be, depending on where you live, depending on your access, even ability or interest to even want to get diagnosed. Start there, if possible. And if not possible, start here with this video, because you might have different signs, different symptoms, different ways and behaviors and life experiences that impact how you engage with life. I do have a video that does describe in excruciating detail, my apologies, about how ADHD can show up in your life and a breakdown of the diagnosis. As I said, a lot of details, and when you keep that in mind, it's helpful to uncover that there are some things that you go through. But I'll put a video up here discussing the actual breakdown of the diagnosis of ADHD so that you can be more aware, because if you don't have access, you don't have insurance, you can't pay out of pocket, you're struggling with your finances, you're struggling with keeping accountable with the times of going to places like appointments, then it's good to just start here. Simply start the video, simply start with reading a short article, simply start with watching a cartoon that actually might discuss ADHD, or simply talk to someone, even if it's a friend, even if it's in the comment section of this video. Start where you are, start where you need to be. Try not to look at the entire design of this, and don't go to the very end when you say, I finally got a diagnosis. Just look at where you are, go a little bit lower. It's a humbling experience to really take a chance and look at your symptoms and take them as seriously as you can, to prove that you can sit down on your own and really contemplate these things and ask yourself the hard questions, such as, is this something that I want to look into? Can it help me? What can I do today or tomorrow to make a step towards that, so that the following day is a tad bit easier and I'm at least a little better, or at least a little bit more knowledgeable. And when you do that, when you sit down and ask yourself some very heartfelt, honest, direct questions, you might learn something that you didn't know before, and now you know. You might initiate different parts of yourself and unlock certain parts of yourself that are willing to actually move forward and put potential out there. Because when you do that, the day can shift a little bit, and then you're able to engage more. Then you're able to do the exact things that you said you were going to do. And when you follow through with that, there's like this imbue of energy that comes out of that, because you're able to acknowledge that you're not as disoriented. You're not going into some sort of endeavor of disorder or entropy and it falling apart because you're pushing against that, which is harder. But I think it's it's well worth the effort. So again, before counting yourself out for not having ADHD because of fear of stigma, thinking what will others think of me, poor confidence, this self-deprecating imposter syndrome where you think, well, I have high intellect, or I'm able to manage things in chaotic experiences. Just counting yourself out, or even thinking that, well, I might have it, and then you just say, no, that's just a negative thought. Really do consider yourself to the point where you might have it, and you want to take yourself seriously, and you want to push through that, and you want to start asking questions. You might want to look up more videos. You might want to read a little bit more about this. There's a lot of great books out there. And I'd encourage you further to have a small conversation with yourself every day. It could take 30 seconds to a minute, where you sit down at the end of the day, or you lean up in bed in the beginning of the day, and you acknowledge, I have some stuff going on in my life, stuff that I'm probably not too proud of. I also have some things that I need to figure out. I can figure that out. Maybe, just maybe, I can press on and learn more about what I'm going through. Life could always be better. School could always get easier. My career could always run smoother. My friendships could always be more connected. My health could be enhanced. I can increase my productivity in certain areas. I can manage my emotions by working through dysregulated ones and regulate it better. When you have all of these things set in front of you, it can seem impossible. And as I always tell my clients who really struggle with balance, I always let them know, life like this is a trapeze act where you're walking on that tightrope in a circus. And many people want to just get to the other side. It's difficult to do so because if you just take a leap, you're probably going to fall. It's going to be that much more painful to try to get back up, and you have to humble yourself and really look at yourself and say, I'm willing to go smaller in my steps. And if I go smaller in my steps, then I can actually move forward in a curious manner. And if I can move forward in a curious manner, then I can find out if I take a smaller micro step rather than a giant leap. Because with micro steps, that's how you get across a trapeze. I hope this video gives you a little bit of solace. Hopefully it gives you a little bit of comfort with my rambling. Try not to count yourself out when it comes to your curiosity and identifying and unpacking signs and symptoms of ADHD. Even if you look at the DSM, the statistical manual that we use to diagnose ADHD, and you don't have those signs and symptoms, still there might be something going on that you're trying to put your finger on. And if all signs lead to this area, it's important to manage it to the point where you can adapt to the idea that there could be something going on within you, and highlight that it might be important enough for you to uncover that. Because when you uncover that, you're able to turn different parts of yourself that you never thought that you could, and you get to see even further your potential. I remember when I was first interested in learning more about my signs and symptoms, I was diagnosed when I was a kid, and I was diagnosed with ADHD and I believe OCD. Went through a lot of different shifts and changes as a kid, and fast forwarding to myself as an adult, I masked these experiences most of the time. And whether it was willingly or unbeknownst to me. And when you do that for a long time, I think you develop a skill set where you're able to manage these experiences better. And it gets to the point where you ask yourself, should I even consider sitting down with a doctor? Should I even look up that video that could inform me that I might have these symptoms that could be impacting me? If you're curious, take a peek. I'm not telling you to go down the rabbit hole. I'm not telling you to spend endless amounts of time to look in something that could feel completely uncertain, and then you're just so overwhelmed you don't even move. Remember, micro steps on a tightrope. When you have those micro steps, it becomes more possible. Because it is impossible to take the leap and say, I'm just going to get diagnosed tomorrow. We have to be realistic as possible to manage how we can strategically break down these goals into objectives, and those objectives into micro steps. And then consider taking the first step. Because imagine the day, months from now, maybe even years from now, where you're able to actually say, I know more about myself, and I got a diagnosis, I'm getting treated, it's good. Or I know more about myself, and I didn't get a diagnosis, but I was able to see what was missing in my life in order for me to move forward and have upward mobility, that I can feel better, more responsible, accountable to my own standards, aligning with my purpose, whatever that might be. So I hope that's helpful. Trying not to discount your experience and to really consider that struggling with this is well worth the investigation, because when you uncover different things about yourself, you know more. And when you know more, it can be scary, yes, but it might be well worth it. Because if it's well worth it, then you're able to have a little bit of meaning behind that, because you took it upon yourself to understand yourself better. And no one can really go wrong with that. Take care.